Let's hear it for every single person who came up on this stage just now. Senator Nina Turner, Dr. Cornel West, Cynthia Nixon, Sunflower Bean for sharing their skills and their talents. Funny story about Sunflower Bean, actually. Their lead singer, Julia Cummings, she's from New York City, as I am. And way back before I won my primary, like months before, there was a public forum that was coming on, and Julia Cummings, lead singer of Sunflower Bean, invited me to come speak, and it was like my first ever real public appearance. And so tonight's a real full circle moment. And she gave me space then, and I'm so excited that she's on, and Sunflower Bean's on this stage tonight. So let's give them a round of applause. And let's talk about this moment. I want us to talk about this moment here tonight, on the eve of the New Hampshire primary. Because this is a very important moment that we have tonight in our democracy, because we have a choice to make, and it is important for us to realize that choice tomorrow and to do everything that we can to expand the electorate and transform our democracy to center everyday people, fight for healthcare as a right, fight for a living wage, fight to end mass incarceration, fight to break up ICE and CBP. It's gonna take you to do it. It's gonna take mass movement politics to do it. That's the theory of change. That's what political revolution is all about. I want to talk a little bit about why Bernie. Because Bernie has not committed to what is right when it was popular. Senator Bernie Sanders has spent his entire life fighting for the right thing when it was unpopular. And I'll tell you now that I'm in Washington, D.C., and we've been there for a year, I can tell you that's not easy to do. It is the hardest thing to stand up to the establishment of big pharma, to big oil and gas, to stand up to bigotry. Because as we know, what we've seen is that you can galvanize people pretty easily around hate. It is hard to stand up and fight for someone you don't know when it's not the popular thing to do, and he has done it his whole damn life. His whole life. And that's not just a testament to who Senator Sanders is. It's not just a testament to who he is. It's a testament to the strength that is needed and necessary in the White House to get an agenda done for working people. About 3 or 4 years ago now, I was an activist and I had found myself at Standing Rock, standing in support of our Native brothers and sisters, honoring and centering Indigenous wisdom in our energy policy and environmental policy, and I remember how hard it was for people to speak out in that time, because we had a Democratic administration. And you're not supposed to talk about what's wrong when the political establishment has congealed sometimes in that way. You're not supposed to talk about that. In that time, thousands of Americans went out to Standing Rock, to Ocheti, to center and say, listen to our Native brothers and sisters, listen to them. We Listen to them. That when that fracking pipeline was going through an affluent white community, they stood up and said, not in our backyard. So what happened? That pipeline went to a native, through a native community. And so they started to galvanize, and they let out that call. And thousands of everyday Americans heeded that call to center our community. You know who showed up? Senator Sanders showed up. You know who else showed up? Almost no one. When we look at what happened in that debate stage, who brings up Palestine? Senator Bernie Sanders. When we talk, let's go back further. Let's go back further, because now people think that progressive ideals are in vogue. Who put them in vogue? Which campaign made a living wage and centered that? Which candidate in this race never took corporate PAC money ever in their life? In their life? Senator Bernie Sanders. Who was one of the first major presidential candidates to ever campaign on Medicare for all, healthcare as a right in the United States? Senator Bernie Sanders. Let's go back further. Who stood up? Who stood up for women and gender nonconforming people's right to choose in the 90s when it was unpopular? Senator Bernie Sanders. Who was standing up and saying that we should center and that we should lift up our queer brothers and sisters when people were passing the DOMA, when we were passing DOMA Defense of Marriage Act? Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator Bernie Sanders. Fast forward this campaign, who is the only candidate to call to break up ICE and CBP? Senator Bernie Sanders. That matters. All of this matters. And when it comes to politics, you get what you pay for. And when you have candidates bankrolled by billionaires, who are they going to work for? Who do you think they're going to work for? When you have candidates that only take contributions from and by the people, who have only ever taken contributions by the people, who do they work for? Who does that person work for? The people. This matters. This primary, these elections, they matter. Because in November, when we kick out Donald Trump from the White House, we're either going to go back to how things were, or we're going to move forward to establish a 21st century advanced society that guarantees economic, social, and human rights for all people. And let's talk about November. Let's talk about November, because we know in every poll, Bernie beats Trump. And let me tell you something. Trump knows that. Why else do you think he has come here tonight? For anybody else? No, because they see you, all of you right here in this arena, coming together in the name of love and fighting for someone you don't know, and centering your neighbor and fighting for the least of us in rejection of racism, homophobia, xenophobia. To say we're going to center healthcare for all people in the United States of America. We're going to fight for economic dignity, 21st century crossroads in our democracy. We're at a key crossroads. And we cannot underestimate the power of hate. We cannot underestimate the power of that divisiveness and the centering and the vitriol and all of that. We cannot underestimate that. And that is why we need to nominate someone with a political revolution at their back, with decades of organizing bringing us to this moment. It is not going to be any one candidate that defeats Donald Trump. It's going to be a movement of Americans that defeat Donald Trump in rejection of hatred and embracing of love. There's a lot of centering here, and there's a lot of accommodating. People worry about voters that perhaps have never experienced or been touched by someone with an immigration crisis, whose family has not been separated, whose family perhaps has never been unjustly incarcerated, people who have never struggled to afford their health care in the United States, people that have never struggled people have never struggled to make ends meet. There's a lot of worrying about how we win over those people. My plea to you, first of all, I don't know too many people that have never been touched by one of these issues. But if you are blessed enough, my ask is to fight for someone you don't know, fight for someone who has struggled for health care, vote for someone who is an immigrant, vote for someone who has been unjustly incarcerated, vote for the least amongst us. There are two paths we can take. One is a nomination that brings us back to business as usual, but business as usual was not working for working people. It was not. Or we can choose to move forward. And as someone who has been told to go back, I'm gonna tell you, we're moving forward. Forward to a multiracial democracy, forward to guaranteed health care, forward to a living wage, forward to fighting for our neighbors, forward for indigenous rights and honoring sovereignty, forward, forward, forward. That's where we're gonna go. We're not going back to the days where people had to hide. We're not going back to the days where people have to worry. We're not going back. We are going forward. And with that, I am so excited to bring you the candidate that will get us there.